Everybody. I'll remind you. Make sure. Yes, sir.
No one got up to give you a seat. I was sitting down.
I want to be able to see. I don't want to get behind him.
That happened last time. That's
Right?
I would like to call this meeting to order. Today is Thursday, December 13, 2012. The time is 7:01. Our invocation today will be given by Lou Rosenberg.
I've been asked to step forward. So, those of you that know that it means that I've got to be heard, will you bow your heads, please? Our Father, we thank you for the opportunity of being here to be about your public service. We thank you for the season. We ask that you explain to us once again what Advent means. It means the beginning of new life, the beginning of your presence on this earth, and our opportunity to respond to that presence. We wish everybody here a very blessed Christmas, and ask that you be with all of us tonight as we proceed publicly, and be with all of us as we go home and spend time with our families, and that we drive and act carefully, sanely, and soberly in this season to celebrate your Son's birth. In his name we pray. Amen.
Okay, we have established quorum tonight. We have Mr. Morones, Councilman Gomez, Councilman Guerrero, Councilman Castillo, and Councilman Miller. Please stand to recite the U.S. pledge. At this point, I would like to, if it's okay with the councilman, I would like to move up item 3A, where we'll be giving the Wildcats football proclamation, if that's okay with everyone. It's a school night. We'll do them a little bit as they're running late. We'd like to start with citizens input. Do we have anyone that has any citizens input at this time? go into old business. 1A, consider an action to approve minutes from regular meeting October 25th, 2012. I believe you all have those in your package.
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of 2012.
All in favor? Okay. Four zero one. Motion carries. And then we'll go on to consider an action to approve minutes from special meeting November 17th, 2012, canvass of election results. I think both of them separate.
I move to approve the meeting on the 17th day of November.
Okay, motion was made by Ms. Castillo, second by Mr. Gomez. All in favor?
Again, I abstain, I was not on the council.
Okay, that's 4-0, motion carries. On to 2C, consider an action to approve minutes in special meeting November the 17th, 2012.
I have a question on that one. Can we have clarification on whether or not citizens input should follow a motion in after the vote or before? Because this states that if the citizens input was at the end, after the motion carried 4-1. Can we have explanation on that process, Mr. New?
The process ordinarily ought to have the citizens input before the vote, but if in fact it happened, it's reported, then we need to report it.
It happened the way it's reported. You know, my point is that we should change it going forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
I make motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting, November 17th, 2012.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion carries. On to
Abstain.
consider an action to approve minutes from workshop of November the 26th. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes for the city council workshop on November 26, 2012.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, Councilman Miller has made the motion, second by Councilman Guerrero. All in favor?
Aye.
4 and 1 abstain. Motion carries. Now on the item E and F, I'm going to ask that we table these because these were omitted. And they will be presented, yes, and they'll be presented at the next meeting.
business items 1E, correction, 1D and
I believe it's E and F.
E and F?
Yes,
I'm
E
sorry.
and F.
E and F.
Okay. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
4 and 1 abstaining, motion carries. Now we're going to go on to presentation, employee,
One more meeting.
One more minute. The one for the
oh, the 29th, I'm sorry. Item 1G, consider an action to approve minutes from the special meeting November 29th, 2012.
I just have a correction. Under new business, item 2A, the minutes reflect the councilman Miller abstained from the vote. I actually recused myself from the vote. Is that the same move? Yeah.
On that same one, on 2E, citizens input, where it says at the very bottom, Castillo abstained. I did not abstain, I opposed. And then I have another comment on item G. With Mr. Paulsack's comment, and he said that it was the amendment to the motion was a violation of the Open Meetings Act. And he also said we're gonna be in a lot of trouble, and I would like for that comment to be reflected. And that's all on that one, so. I move that we accept the minutes of the 25th day of October as amended.
I second that.
Motion made by Ms. Councilman Castillo, second by Councilman Gomez. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll go on to presentation. We have the Employee of the Month presentation for November 2012. Andy?
Thank you, Mayor. Citizens, Mayor, and Council, we would like to acknowledge the November 2012 Employee of the Month, Danny Aranda. Danny began his service to our city in 2009 as a laborer in the water department. Danny quickly earned his required D operator's license in order to advance personally as well as professionally in that department. Since that time, Danny has earned his C operator's license, become a crew leader, and is an avid spokesman for city employees. Danny is well liked by his supervisors, co-workers, and citizens of our great city. As such, we wish to publicly recognize him for his vital contribution to our city.
Hey, man.
Danny Aranda, and a round of applause. He needs to go up with the council.
Everybody look this way. Smile, 1, 2, and thank you.
Okay, next we'll have item 2B. We'll get a presentation from Mr. Jed Brown for Brownstone Affordable Housing LTD, proposed apartment complex.
Mayor, if I can have before Mr. Brown starts, that
We have a January 1 to December 31 budget year. This budget was actually approved by the Phelps Board at our October board meeting on October 31st. And per our ordinances and charters, we come to the three owner cities, Floresville, Stockdale, and Poe. We come to the three owner cities, Floresville, Stockdale, and Poe, and we give you a presentation, an update on what we have outline for our budget for the next year. I believe you've been provided a packet that looks like this. It's about 13 pages long. I think we sent it to you both hard copies and electronically. This is what I'll be working off of in our presentations. I believe y'all have copies of this. Okay. This is the same packet that we gave to our board members on a budget workshop in early October. We worked through that with them. 3 weeks later, we did at the October board meeting, we did a formal approval of this. So what I'm presenting to you is the same thing that I presented to the Phelps board just under 2 months ago. The first few pages of this presentation are simply agendas, table of contents, and the like. If you would, we can skip through to page 5 and start this presentation. Phelps operates in very simplistic terms under 2 budgets. We have an operating budget and we have a capital budget. And we treat those as 2 separate budgets, despite the fact that essentially it's all coming out of the same account and same pot of money. We like to describe it as the same pair of pants, but we just keep the money in 2 different pockets. Operational budget is what we use for our day-to-day operations. These are things, employee salaries and utilities and the things it takes to keep the utility running on a daily basis, routine maintenance, power outage restoration, that kind of thing. The capital budget is what we use for major projects, purchase of vehicles, any higher dollar items, special projects, major construction and the like. A couple of things I want to point out to you on page 5. A couple of things that I'm putting into place as new general manager at Phelps is one of the things we're going to look at is, first thing is no replacement of any employees that leave Phelps unless necessary. This comes from the time of whether an employee retires, resigns, or whatever the cause of separation may be. We're going to take every position and review it to see, do we need to rehire that same position? Do we need to hire in a different area? Or are we set up such that that position cannot be rehired? That we are overstaffed in one certain area, so we will not rehire. Currently, we have 3 job vacancies at Phelps that we have chosen not to rehire. I don't know how long we're going to be able to go without those employees, but right now that's what we're doing. So we're doing an evaluation of that. We made a handful of general assumptions. We have a 5% overall salary increase that includes cost of living adjustment. Now that doesn't mean that all Phelps employees are entitled to a 5% pay raise for this year. That 5% includes increased premiums and insurance, increased costs to our retirement fund and the like. So we allocated 5% increase to offset those costs. We did a simple escalation in cost of materials based on trends. As you know, the price of copper is not cheap, and it's getting less and less cheap by the day. So the simple materials and supplies that we need to operate our business, poles, wires, meters, you name it, they're going up in cost. And we have reflected an escalation in cost in that in our budget. We intend to maintain and continue our current levels of customer service. There'll be no change in office hours or customer contact. In other words, we don't have any plans to shut down at noon on Friday to save money, or maybe only be open 9 to 4 instead of 8 to 5. We intend to maintain the same levels of service that we have. We did not make any changes to the other employee benefit formulas. That's going to stay the same as it has in the past. And we budget our utility costs and amounts to maintain at current levels. And by utility costs, I mean what we have to pay for things like cell phones, internet service, water and sewer, garbage pickup, and the like. This overall budget I'm going to present to you tonight is in line with the Phelps financial plan that has been established by our board and been in place for several years. Moving on to page 6, we'll start first with our operating budget. You'll see the different categories that we have within our operating budget. The columns you see before you are our 2011 actual numbers. The next column is what we budgeted for calendar year fiscal year 2012. And the middle column there that reads 2012 projection. We did that projection at the end of September. So that's a 9-month projection. We have 9 months of good data. We projected out for the last quarter of the year. And the column following that is the 2013 budget, what was approved by our board. You have a column there of variance, and you'll see, if you look at the very bottom line in bold, the proposed 2013 budget for the Phelps system is $28.7 million, up from $27.2 million for 2012. You know, that's an increase of about $1.5 million in the overall budget. You'll notice that most of that increase comes from the very top line of this budget outline, is what we call purchase power supply. And that's the energy that we buy, the power we buy from CPS Energy and pass through to our customers. We make our budget for 2013 based on forecasts, what we think the weather is going to do for 2013, what we think load growth is going to do, what new customers and new meter connections we think will come into our system. We do that based on historical trends, and of course we put some additional information there based on the Eagle Ford Shale growth. We've seen a tremendous amount of growth, as you well know, in the area based on the Eagle Ford drilling. That translates into more meters, more connections, and more energy sold by the Phelps system. So that is, in very simplistic terms, the budget increase you see before you is mainly based on our forecast for power supply for 2013. Any questions on this page? I know there's a lot of information to take in a short amount of time. So if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me as we go. Moving on to page 7. This is a simplistic pie chart for what we have for our operating expenses. You'll notice that 78%, over 3/4 of our operating budget, is strictly for power supply. What we buy from CPS Energy, what we pass through to the customers of the Floresville Electric Line and Power System. The overall budget, only 22% of our budget is for everything else besides power supply. Flip the page to page 8. We've taken that 22% slice you see there, and we've broken that slice down into to show where our actual operating expenses are, excluding power supply. Starting at the top, you see there's transmission operations, very small slice of that. Distribution operation, that's in very simple terms, that's what it takes to run the electric utility system out in the field. We have some overhead labor, meter reading and consumer accounting, storeroom expense, that's our buying our materials and supplies. And the biggest slice there you see is general and administrative. That's what we have to pay for insurance costs and company costs for payroll and fuel and things like that. If you flip to page 9, we take that general and administrative slice at 36%, and we break that down into another pie chart. We have everything there from administrative payroll, a little bit of consulting costs, what we pay for insurance, and this insurance slice here is not what we pay for employee insurance, it's insurance we pay, property insurance, vehicle insurance, things that we have to insure. We have employee benefits, retirement, sick leave, vacation time, paid holidays. That's 53% of our general administrative expenses. On around the franchise fees that we have to pay to the cities of Livonia and Falls City, who are within our territory, but are not owners of the system. From there, we go to community support. This is something Phelps offers to all the communities in our service territory. That includes everything from hanging the overhead street banners that go from bar ditch to bar ditch, to parade floats and the Peanut Festival, to the donations we do for scholarships, project graduation, Wilson County Stock Show, and the like. And then, of course, you have a small slice there for what we pay for utilities, water, sewer, phone, internet, and the like. And then we kind of have that 8% slice we call all of it. That's the thing. We don't have a specific category. And bear in mind, this is not 8% of our entire budget. It's 8% of the slice, which is a certain percentage of the slice of the others. So you're drilling down pretty deep at this point. That is a really quick overview of our operating budget for 2013. Are there any questions about the operations side of things? Hearing none. Page 10 starts with the capital construction budget. For the electric utility system, the same columns that we saw on the previous page. You have our 2011 actuals. We have a budgeted amount for 2012, and then after 9 months, after 3/4 of the year, we did a projection of what we think we're going to spend in all of 2012. We have a 2013 budget, and then of course the differential projections versus budget columns on the far right side. You'll notice that the budget is taking a pretty sharp increase from $0.5 million projected for this year, up to just over $6 million for next year. What we do is part of our financial investment policy, our financial policy felt we go for bonds and borrow money every 3 years. So we stay on a 3-year cycle of going out for bonds to fund our capital campaign. What happens is we typically try to balance that out to spend $3.3 million a year for 3 straight years and spend it up. That's not always the case. If we don't spend the full $3 million in 1 year, if the balance rolls to the next year. If we don't spend it that next year, it rolls to the 3rd year. So what you're seeing here is this $6 million is the 3.3 we would have allotted for this year, plus what's been rolled from the previous year that didn't get spent. Not going to say that these numbers are wrong, but they're a little misleading. You might think that we've not done as much capital work as we had planned to do because we haven't spent the money. When in reality, we've had over $1 million worth of our capital projects that we had budgeted money for, that we had borrowed money for, that we've actually been reimbursed by the various oil companies for construction on these lines. Mainly they're around Karnes County Road 230 is the most recent example we took out of our Falls City substation. A very significant new addition, new power line that we had planned to put in our master plan. The oil companies came along and said, we don't want to do it when you're planning to do it in 2014. We need it now. What do we have to do to get that? And they said, you have to pay for it. And they did. So we got that line constructed, and that line alone, not mistaken, that was a $450,000 line that we had budgeted for, we borrowed money for, that we didn't have to pay. So we've been able to defer some of these expenses on down the line. So every year what we'll do is evaluate. We're scheduled to go out for another bond issue in 2014. We'll look at how we're progressing on this, and then we'll go to our board, we'll determine if we need to possibly push that bond issuance out to 2015. Maybe instead of borrowing $10 million, maybe we only borrow $7 million or $6 million, or we get several options that we can use. So that's, I don't want to leave the impression that we've not been doing the work we're trying to do, because we've been doing it and more, as evidenced by the amount of overtime and new lines and new connections that's been added to our system over the last several years. And starting on page 11, we have another set of pie charts that relate to our capital budget that were very similar to what we have for our operating budget. You'll see on page 11, our biggest expense for our capital budget is titled distribution. And then we have a little bit in blue there, 12% is transmission and substation, and 10% is general and common stuff that falls into both transmission and distribution categories. Very simply stated, the transmission lines bring the power from the power plant to our substations, distribution lines taken from the substation to the homes and businesses. And so we differentiate between the two because one's a regulated business, one's an unregulated business. So we have to keep the sets of books completely separate from what we do for transmission, what we do for distribution. So that's what you see here. Moving to page 12, we take that large slice, that distribution slice, that's 78% of our capital budget, and we break that down just like we did before. Starting at the top, 13% of that is substations, including land and structures. We have 4 states, substation system. We have to do routine maintenance, keep on them, we have to insure them, have property insurance on them. We're going around everything to poles, towers, and fixtures, underground and overhead devices, line transformers. Line transformers is something that has gotten tripled in cost in the last few years. There's so much copper and so much materials in them. This is becoming one of the most expensive items that we need for construction. Going on around the circle, you see services and meters, everything, street lighting, distribution, automobiles and trucks, net capitalized bond interest, communications equipment, which is our SCADA system, and then we have a very small sliver there for the adjustment around here. Page 13 is just is kind of a quick overview of the capital projects that we have planned for 2013. The biggest project we have is what's called a reconductor project. That's going to be along Highway 181 on the northwest side of Floresville, running roughly from Ditmar Lumber out to County Road 320, running out towards the intersection of 181 and 775. What we have right now is we have our Eagle Creek substation, which is near 775 and 181. And we have our Floresville substation, which is on A Street. We have a very robust line running out of one substation, and a very robust line running out of the other one. But right in the middle of it, we have what's essentially a weak link between the two. With the amount of growth that's coming in on that side of town, you know, since they built Walmart, the hospital's relatively new. McCoy's is coming in, there's a new strip center coming in next to Walmart. To get that housing development that Brendan presented earlier, we need to upgrade that weak link between those 2 points. That will do things that will help for reliability, capacity, it'll make the system more robust and stronger. This is a very significant project for a lot of reasons. First of all, this line was built 55 or 60 years ago, and at the time, there was no thought to acquiring right-of-way or easement. And so we're going to take this line. It was also built off the road, a lot of it across pastures and across public property or private property. We'd like to get those lines rebuilt closer to the road because they're easier to service when you have power outages and the like. You don't have to go across muddy fields when you can possibly set up on the shoulder of the highway. So we have easement acquisition, right-of-way acquisition, and everything to go with it. We're actually breaking this over 3 years. In 2012, we're doing the engineering of this project and paying the cost of that. In 2013, we're constructing the first half. In 2014, we'll construct the second half. That's how big of a project this is. Another big project we have to do is upgrade our utility billing system. The system that we use right now is soon to be outdated and obsolete. The software company that supports it is in March of 2013 is no longer going to support the system we have. We're still operating off an old green screen DOS-based system. It's time for it to go. And so they get this neat name of Windows 95. So we've got to do a utility billing system upgrade. So that's going to be a significant capital project for the utility as well. We have a few things that we have scheduled, simple reliability projects, or pole replacement system-wide. Over time, these wooden poles get rotten, they get woodpeckers on them, they start to lean. You just have to, as preventative maintenance, you have to replace these from time to time. They've got about a 30-year lifespan. We have some poles in our system that we know are over 60 years old. We're looking at putting in a radio tower at the Eagle Creek substation. This will be used for communications for two-way radios between our trucks. Out in that area, just past 775 and 181, we have, as you get down, it goes down toward the river, the geography is not in our favor. We have areas where we can't even communicate truck to truck on two-way radio. And given the business that we do and the high voltage lines we work on, that creates a very unsafe situation for our employees. We'll also be able to use that tower and lease space to other companies and gain back some of the revenue that we would otherwise lay out for construction. And we have scheduled to upgrade our SCADA system. SCADA system is a supervisory control and data acquisition system. Essentially, that gives us a way to sit in our office and monitor what goes on at all 4 of our substations. It also gives us the ability, if we have a substation trip offline, a squirrel or something gets in there, under certain circumstances, we can flip a switch and a few keystrokes at the office and restore power. I don't have to roll the truck out to the substation, taking outage time. We can't keep the squirrels out always, but we can restore it quicker. And we do need one vehicle purchased in 2013, a heavy cargo truck with a lift gate. We have one now that's very small. It's not even a 1-ton truck, I don't believe, or it is a 1-ton truck. We need something significantly bigger transformers, bigger reels of wire, bigger equipment. So we need one new vehicle. That's all we're going to buy. And no major upgrades planned for our facilities in 2013. Page 14 is the page of interest, I'm sure, to the city of Floresville. You can see we have historical data going back to 1994 of the earnings distributions that we paid to each of the 3 owner cities. The forecast for 2013 is to distribute a total of $903,000 from Phelps to the 3 owner cities. Per the 1996 settlement, both and Stockdale each own 18% of the system, meaning the city of Floresville owns 64% of the system. Therefore, you're entitled to 64% of that $903,000. That means your forecast payout for calendar year 2013 will be $577,920. And as we've done historically, we will pay that out in equal payments 2013. Now, these numbers are forecast and are rounded, so obviously the number will fluctuate a little bit from there. These numbers should not be very far off. And then finally, the last page of the presentation you see is just a big overall summary of the entire Phelps budget. It's just it's done in balance sheet form instead of spreadsheet form. And then for the purchase power, operations, capital expenses, all of this rolled together. It's just another way of presenting the same numbers that I've talked to you about for the last few minutes. And that is it for my presentation. I know this was a kind of quick and dirty and very high level. And so what I've offered to the other cities is I will certainly take questions here tonight. If you think of any questions or you see something that you'd like to ask about, you can feel free to contact me in my office, or I'd be happy to come back in January to a council meeting and address the council with any questions you might have if you'd like to ask over the public forum.
I have a few questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And this may be, the first one may be a procedural issue. One is, as an action item for this council to approve this budget, but you said that your board had already approved it. Does this council get involved in the approval of the budget?
Technically not.
Okay.
And Mr. Miller, Mayor Garza does sit on the Phelps board, and the mayor of Floresville always has a member of the Phelps board, and plus Floresville does have one member. Each of the owner cities has a representative, so at all times, Floresville will have two members of the board.
Great, thank you. The next question I have is just kind of, I'm going to back up to the operations piece, and when you talked about general assumptions, you stated that you're planning a 5% increase in salary or payroll expenses as it relates to benefits, retirement, cost of living, et cetera, that you're having to budget for increased costs of materials, but that you're going to remain the same levels of customer service. You're going to have no change in office hours, no changes in employee benefits, and you're going to maintain your utility costs. Your expenses have gone up dramatically here when you look at this, but the bottom line doesn't reflect that. What additional revenue is Phelps seeing to be able to do this?
Well, some of it, what I mentioned before, is the construction money that we brought in from the oil company. Most of that goes to our capital budget. Some of it does go to operations. And besides that, we just had a tremendous increase in line extension fees that people have come in. I mean, I'm talking about building new houses, building new businesses that we didn't necessarily have in our capital budget. We consider some of our line extension fees as simple operations. You have a vacant lot in town, somebody needs a meter pole and a transformer. We consider that to just be daily operations type work because it's routine. It's not significant, large, six-figure type project work. So we've had quite a bit more of that come in than was budgeted in 2012.
So overall, you're seeing an increase in operational revenue in 20. We're projecting an increase in operational revenue.
Yes, sir.
About how much of an increase are you projecting?
That's hard to say. You know, it's we hope we see the same numbers that we've seen the last few years since we've had the boom of the Eagle Ford Shale. Putting an exact dollar number on that, Mr. Miller, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I will have to look it up and report back to you. If you're looking for a dollar amount or a percentage amount.
Percentage amount, that would be really interesting.
Percentage amount, David helped me, I believe it was near 10% is what a difference in increase over what we've seen historically. But
This year, if you'll recall our weather in comparison to last year. Last year we had, in 2011, we had a very cold January, February time period, and then we had an extremely hot summertime. So revenues for 2011 were very high. 2012, we had a milder winter. For Texas, we had a milder summer. But with all of the connections being added because of the oil and associated businesses, in spite of the fact that we had a much milder year, sales were only 2% lower. So You know, you gotta spend a utility, much like your water utility that you run as part of your city. By adding meters, you're adding revenue, but you got that capital cost of adding those meters.
I understand the difference. I'm really concerned about, or not concerned about, but interested in what is the revenue increase projection next year that is specifically towards operations. I understand the capital side of the house, but the revenue side of the house, I didn't see that increase in your presentation as in there.
So, just to be clear, you're asking about the operations revenue increase assumptions. So, if it's okay with you, would you let me confer with my financial staff, and then maybe we can report back to Ms. Pollock, and she can give the answer to the council? Is that acceptable? Okay.
We've got that projected out for early 2025.
Mr. Dickey,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to thank you for whatever construction enhancement you all did this past year on the other side of 181, because I live on that side by the middle school, and we used to have outages quite frequently. And I haven't seen any outages lately. At least I can't remember the last time we had one. So thank you so much for whatever was done to fix that.
No, you're welcome. I'd love to take credit for it.
Well, Mr. Phillips.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
I just got one question here on page 10, on the office and computer equipment. Seems like there's quite a bit of a difference there from 2012 to 2013.
Office and computer equipment.
There's a $236,000 difference from 2012 to 2013. We're putting a new system on it.
Yes, but that would be, that's a different topic. We have that on separate in the capital budget. So what we did in 2012 is we did quite a bit of computer replacement projects. We added a new server in 2012 that we did not have. But if you'll notice from 2011, our budget was $37,000. It spiked up to $68,000 in 12, and it's coming back down. But we're only projecting to spend $35,000 in 12. What you have here, the forecasted budget for the $271,000, assuming what you're asking us. Just a second, think about that. That is the internet business. No. Yes, not the internet, but that's. I'm very embarrassed when I'm drawing a blank on this right now. One of our biggest budget items. I will make a note of that as well. Okay. So we'll report back.
Or your software for your business computer.
With the utility billing system? Most likely that's included for the utility billing system upgrade. That's estimated at $225,000. I had it in my head that we had that in the capital budget, but it showed up here in the office. Oh, this is the capital budget. I'm saying. Thought I was looking at the opera. I thought you were asking about the operation budget. That's exactly what this is. This is for
The software that we're buying, you treat it as any other piece of property. You depreciate it over time. So it's part of your capital additions to the system.
And with this, we'll require the upgrade of some PCs, we'll require the upgrade of our servers, and all that. So, my mistake. I had it in my mind that it was looking at the operations budget, so my apologies. One thing I do want to point out that I overlooked, right below that, if you look at internet access business, we had, in 2011, we spent $323,000 in budget in 2012, $415,000. You notice that's going down to $10,000. As you may have read in the newspaper or heard around town that Floresville Electric Power Systems is in the process of selling off and divesting the Phelps.net internet provider. Phelps got into the business of providing internet service in the early 90s. The cities came to us, asked us if we could provide an internet option for Wilson County, so in the rural territory, there were no other options in the area. Over time, more providers have come to town, and quite honestly, they can provide a better service, better price than we can. We're electric utility people trying to run an internet business. So we have found a buyer for our system. They're going to take over our customers. hopefully in the next 30 days, 30 to 60 days. GVDC.net, or the Guadalupe Valley Electric Cooperative, is going to purchase the system from us, and they'll take over service to our customers. And they have a full internet business and staff to dedicate to it, so they'll be able to promise to probably do a better job than we will at a reasonable price. So.
Any other questions?
And before I step away, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize David McMillan. He has been the general manager of the Floresville Electric Lights and Power System for 19 years. He works
96.
since 96.
9.9.
Not quite. Okay, my mistake. He worked for Alexander Utility Engineering and CPS Energy before that, and is a graduate of Texas A&I University, Texas A&M Kingsville. And David has been with us and great general manager for the Phelps system for many years, and he is retiring on January 31st of 2013. So take time to call attention to him and have you chance to say goodbye one more time.
Do you have any citizen comments on this? Anybody?
I got one. I'm truly happy for Mr. McMillan. As when I served on the council, I had the pleasure of working with him, and I really enjoyed working with him. He was very informed. Well, he informed the council. Very good information that he provided to us, and I'm just happy for him. And he was a great asset to the city of Floresville, to Phelps, and all the other cities. And when he was the general manager. I just congratulate you, and I thank you on my part too. I enjoyed working with you. Thank you.
Make it tough on him to follow Mr. McMillan in his office in my first council meeting. I have to follow the football team. Challenging me early.
Okay, do I have a motion? To do this?
My original question was, do we have to prove it? There is no action required.
Do we need action on this, Lou?
We need to simply accept the report. We have representation on the board that he's indicated. It is a self-governing, self-chartered entity that we're a participant in. They do come make a report every year, and we only accept the report as a formality, but it's not an approval. Correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
You have overall control for waste rates, debt, and condemnation.
If I'm not mistaken, it's been refused before.
It's been refused, but it doesn't have any effect, okay, because they're self-governing based on the charter.
Okay, we're going to go back to, we have a motion?
Yes, I move to accept the Phelps 2013 fiscal year budget report.
And if I might suggest, with the request for the.
With the questions pending, yes.
Supplementary information, we can ask for.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Castillo, second by Councilman Gomez. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go on to item 3C. Consideration and action to appoint a qualified person to fill the unexpired term of council seat number 5 in accordance with the City of Floresville Charter 3.06. Ms. Castillo?
Yes, I have, would like to expound on the information that you, on the email you sent to us, Mr. Rosenberg, regarding the answer from the Secretary of State. I don't know, I printed this, it was sent to all of us, so I printed it. It looks a little bit different, but I'm sure it's the same one. And I would like to read one paragraph. It says, the response was that the legal counsel for the Secretary of State who reviewed the matter gave his personal opinion that the seat be filled by an appointment because, again, in his opinion, not an official statement on behalf of the state of Texas, late compliance is better than non-compliance. And if everyone recalls, the reason we could not comply was because we never had a quorum. Is that correct, Luke? Do you recall that?
We didn't have a meeting and a forum during the 10-day period where there was a motion.
Exactly. So the only other option is to allow Councilman Gomez to remain in a holdover position. However, the option on how to proceed is therefore a matter for the City Council. So my recommendation is, and we did that at the time up until now, and I think according to the Secretary of State, we still have that option to keep him in a holdover position until his term ends in November of 2013. So that would be my recommendation. So based on that information, I would like to appoint, and may I say that Councilman Gomez has been a very dedicated councilman. He has dedicated himself to the city, not for self-interest, but for the community. And I don't think that there is anyone on the council that I have served on since I was elected, anyone more dedicated and a hard worker as he has been. And so based on everything that he has given to this community, because he has done it from his heart, again, not for self-interest, I would like to nominate him and for him to remain as a holdover until his term has been completed, which is November of 2013. So I'll make a motion for that request.
Do I have a second? So we have a motion by Councilman Castillo. No second. All in favor? Okay, can I have a second motion?
Mr. Liu, we're okay with appointing someone to that expired. Can you explain to us, are we okay with appointing someone, the council can appoint someone tonight?
Yes, and here's how we got there, Mr. Morales. Our position as lawyers for the council was that we missed that 10-day window. And we had the opinion, and we gave you a memo, and you have it there in front of you, that because of the holdover provisions and the Constitution interplay, that position, that opportunity to fill that position had expired. We did tell you 2 council meetings ago that we were going to go to the Secretary of State's office, which is the quote expert, and ask for their opinion. And Council Lady Castillo read the response, which was sort of a lukewarm, better to fill it now than not to fill it at all. And so you have the authority, as a matter of discretion, to exercise tonight to fill that window. Although you're going to be filling it late, we recognize that fact. But you put it on the agenda tonight, you had the opportunity to fill it tonight, and you had a motion for the gentleman to continue. That's failed. Now it's open for the motion to make an alternate placement of somebody on the council.
I'll make a motion to put, what's the other name? Rodriguez. Eric Rodriguez to that position. Congratulations, Eric. I think that this young man, he had run a good race against me one time, and he was really interested in the city of Floresville. And I think that he can, that's my opinion. I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Morales. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Councilman Guerrero. Discussion.
I got one.
Well, hang on just a second. I think it is the responsibility of the council to comply with the intention of the city charter. And the city charter clearly states that if you choose to run for an office that runs concurrent with the office that you currently hold, you must resign. I am certain that it is not the intention of the charter to let you remain in that seat if you lose that race. Very much could be described as having your cake and eat it too. I want to commend Councilman Gomez for the service that he's done to this community, done with this community. I'm sure that has been appreciated by all, and I wish him well in his future endeavors. But I think it is important for this council to follow with the intention of the city charter.
And may I say you something, please, that the reason he stayed in that seat because he was advised by our attorney, our city attorney, that if he ran and lost, he could still keep his seat. That was the advice. Isn't that correct, Lou?
That is correct. That was their advice.
And so now we have changed opinions.
You know what, if I may say so fast, you know, I remember walking into a seat back in the day when I first ran. And, you know, it's with a heavy heart that I will leave today. I think they filled in this seat with a perfect man, a perfect family man, and a decent man, I'll tell you that right now. And there's nothing that I have to say about that man right there. That's a good man, I'll tell you that right now. Now, it is with a heavy heart that I will leave, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that I always wanted to do was make this community a better community, and it has. People don't see the structure that's being built, the foundation that's been built, the improvements that have happened, you know, all the new businesses that have come in, and people might not understand that, you know, Floresville wasn't going to stay as Floresville. It was going to stay the small town that everyone wanted to be. It's due for change, and that change came 6 years ago with the industrial park, with all the new streets we started putting in. Everything that we accomplished was accomplished by teamwork. And that teamwork came at a lot of cost. And regardless of what it said, I actually was leaving. I never resigned. Never resigned. I was supposed to resign that Monday, just for you to clarify things. I never resigned. We continued. We didn't have quorum. And I was advised by our attorneys that they had talked to the state legislature and they were going to reinstate me. That was it. Now, whether that's, you know, that's just a matter of opinion, of course. I know that that I appreciate Sherry Castillo, community members here, and everybody else who got me here in this office, including my friends and my family. I will say this, someone asked me today, said, when they take you out, you know, what's the one thing that you can take with you? And I'll tell you what it is. In all our accomplishments here in this city council, I will say that I wouldn't take anything with me. The only thing that I will take with me is the failure to do what I didn't accomplish. And that's what's important. And these kids that came in today, and I will tell you the one thing I didn't accomplish that really strikes me pretty hard is the fact that all these kids right here that sat here today, and this is my main goal 6 years ago, was to create something for these kids in a sense of a park. That was it, you know, but with that everything else came, and it paved the road for New Floresville. I'm very proud to say that, and I've spent my time, and I appreciate the staff, the employees, people who helped me out when we needed it, and everybody else out there who actually supported me. And I'll leave it at that.
Councilman Gomez,
consider giving enough notice to others that wanted to suggest or wanted to be considered for the but nothing against you, Eric. I know you know my daughter, you and your wife, but when you appoint somebody, you're going to give them an advantage to once the election comes, and that's the only issue that I have with y'all. That I thought that y'all, if you knew already beforehand that y'all wanted to appoint a council to replace Mr. Gomez, y'all should have gave more notice to get others to submit their names, so that way you would make it equal for anyone that's interested in serving on the council. I've been in the shoes before, like I said, all back for 12 years. You know, I understand lots of responsibilities that y'all have, and I pray for each individual council member, and also you guys. And that's the only comment. And I had one more comment that I wanted to ask y'all to consider is to have a suggestion program to review every process that the city performs. Maybe somebody can submit a suggestion to cost, you know, a process that can be improved, that can save the cost, you know, of any process that you do, that the city does, and maybe reward that individual with maybe monetary funds or maybe a day off. Maybe you might want to consider that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez, I want to personally wish you well in your future endeavors. Do we have a motion? Second? Okay, all in favor? At this time, I'd like to call for a short recess. At this time, we'll be installing a new councilman. The time is 8:42.
Hi, Monica. Albert, how are you?
All right.
Come on.
Yeah, how you doing?
Back here so I can see. Get behind the post.
That's it.
What about you?
Politics have changed in the last couple of years. I've done some of that before. It just takes a little more to get
I wanted to just hear what changes we're making tonight, keep up with what's happening. Trying to, yeah, it comes and goes. Tonight was none of them. People wanted to see what was going on. How are you? I'm always here. Not always. Yeah, and I just want to see what was changing. Well, he got it, and they're taking a break too.
Her friend. Can we tell me because that's my friend.
Get him counsel.
Yes, we go.
I'm sure that's all that we got.
Thank you, everyone, for your support. I appreciate it.
Sure.
The City Council of Floresville is now returning from recess. I would like the minutes to reflect that City Council Place 5 is now occupied by Eric Rodriguez pursuant to Article 16, Section 17 of the Texas Constitution. All officers within the state shall constitute to perform the duties of their offices until their successors shall be duly qualified. With the City Council electing to appoint a new member and an oath of office having been duly administered during the recess, by operation of the Constitution, former Councilman Gomez no longer occupies the seat in a holdover position, and the qualified new council member, Eric Rodriguez, is immediately instituted in the position. We now shall proceed with city business.
Madam Mayor, could I ask you to announce the time?
I'm sorry, the time is 8:53.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go on to item under new business, 3D, to consideration and action to designate an audit committee in accordance with the City of Floresville Charter, Section 927. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Manager of Council, could you read that section of the city charter? I don't have a copy with me.
9, may I read that before?
Um,
Or you want to see it?
No, I would ask you to read 9.27.
9.27 of the current council city charter. It says, independent audits of the city account. The city council shall provide for an independent annual audit of all city accounts and may provide for more frequent audits as it deems necessary. An independent certified public accountant or firm of such accountant shall make such audits. Such audits shall be performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, parenthesis, GAS, G-A-A-S, close friend, and generally accepted governmental auditing standards, G-A-G-A-S, GAS. The council shall designate no fewer than 3 of its members to serve as an audit committee. The committee shall lead the process of selecting an independent auditor. Number 2, direct the work of the independent auditor as to the scope of the annual audit and any matters of concern with respect to internal controls. And 3, receive the report of the internal auditor and present that report to the city council with any recommendations from the committee. The council shall, upon competitive bidding, designate such accountant or firm annually for a period not exceeding 5 years, but the designation for any particular fiscal year, this is a typo, all be made no later than 30 days after the beginning of such fiscal year. The standard for independence is that the auditor must be capable of exercising objective and impartial judgment on all issues encompassed within the audit engagement. No accountant or firm may provide any other services to the city during the time it is retained to provide independent audits to the city. And that should be, again, a typo, it should be independent audits to the city. The city council may waive this requirement by a majority vote at a public hearing. If the state makes such an audit, the council may accept it as satisfying the requirements of this act, of this section. That's the end of 9.27.
Thank you, Councilman. As the city charter requires that the city council appoint a committee of not fewer than 3 of its own members, it does not limit how big this committee should be. I am proposing a 7-member audit committee consisting of 3 council members, the city manager, the comptroller, and 2 citizens from the community to assist in this process of the city audit. The 2 citizens that I have in mind, one I have spoken with, one I have not. But she's present here, so I will go ahead and nominate her as well as the council members. I would propose that the 3 council members for the city of Floresville, let me make this as a formal motion.
Before we have a formal motion, can we discuss it further? Because I would like to know the history of this audit committee. Have we had a committee before?
If I can answer, with your permission, Madam Mayor, that no, this has never been formed prior to now, and we welcome any addition or follow-up on the charter, on the issue. The only thing is that our fiscal year started October. We have last year just hired a new auditing firm. The documents have been sent to her already, so that's the only comment that I've got, that we do have an auditing firm already. The committee, we'll talk to legal on that. He may want to offer his opinion on it, but we do have an auditing firm already, and the documents have been sent to her. Is that correct?
Yes, I just want to make sure, it's 30 days after the beginning of such fiscal year, which that year just ended, and they selected this audit firm during that 30 days, so they're doing the audit, people get confused on the year, so that was done, so we still need to make sure we're doing that. And I would like to mention, you put me on the committee, and I would be as a liaison. I don't know if there might be a conflict of such, because they are auditing, selecting the auditors. I don't know if I should be a member. You know, I could be a liaison. Obviously, I would need to be involved.
Tim,
read Mr. Miller's motion for the purposes of discussion, and let it get seconded, and then if I may make an appropriate comment.
Thank you. And based upon the comments, and this, we may have to amend the motion as to the appropriate member, but I'm going to motion that to be in compliance with the city charter, that an audit committee be formed consisting of 3 council members, myself, Councilwoman Castillo, Councilman Rodriguez, the city manager, the city comptroller, Ms. Deborah Conley, and Mr. Douglas Jones.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilman Miller, second by Councilman Guerrero. All in favor?
No, discussion.
Discussion, I'm sorry.
May I comment?
Yes, sir.
And I came prepared for this, so we'll try to do this in
Who were the two citizens?
Ms. Deborah Conley and Mr. Douglas Jones. Mr. Jones is not here tonight.
Okay. And how are we going to know the qualifications of the citizens?
I can speak to the qualifications of the citizens. Ms. Deborah Conley is the owner of Tax Time here in Floresville and is very familiar with budgets, audit reports, and that sort of thing. Through the past couple of years, she's been quite helpful to me in understanding that. Mr. Jones is a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and has also been very, very helpful to me in understanding budgets and financial reports, and I've gone to him seeking his advice that way. Both very well educated and experienced in finance, and I'm sure would be a great assistance to his committee.
Mr. Jones, does he has a background in some type of CPA or some type of
No, Mr. Jones is not a CPA, but as a squadron commander, he managed many, many large budgets and went through many, many audits within the United States Air Force and is quite familiar with that process.
Okay, so he has a history, a strong history.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I can give some background, Madam Mayor. We took this matter up as item 3F back in the August 9th agenda. And we had a CNA proposed charter amendment for approval at the November general election, November 6th, 2012, relating to Section 9 on financial policy. And Mr. Miller, I don't remember if you were here then.
I was here then.
But you'll recall, I think, what I said at that time, which is the present process that we went through, and actually, let me back up to here. We picked Pat Wagner last year for last year's audit, and so she's done 1 year's audit. And generally speaking, you want to try to have your audit type folks around 2 or 3 years, at least the second year, to see if the recommendations the first year were followed, and the entity being audited implemented the items that you either put in your management letter or that you put in your critique or your footnotes or whatever. But the charter provision, I want you to be aware of, it says, and shall be based on bid. The Professional Services Procurement Act requires that you do two-part process, and we did that last year. We took a statement of qualifications from our audit community and got their qualifications, and then we did the second part, which was negotiate the terms of the contract, the dollars and cents per hour, or the fee structure. And so, and I'm not trying to correct your motion, I'm just trying to explain that you do have an anachronism in the charter because we're governed by state law, and that selection process we've already gone through, at least to the extent that Pat's going forward this year. Okay? And the second part I wanted to suggest is I think it's a good idea to implement the provisions in the charter so that the council is more deeply involved in knowing how the audit process
finance process, the business process, particularly as you heard from the folks that felt how the business goes. And I think that's a good positive step. The only concern I have is we've got to go forward with the audit that's ongoing while you're doing your supervision, your recommendations, and the rest that is in your motion.
I agree, Counselor, that we've already selected the auditor, and I don't think it would be the intention of this committee to stop that process or try to interfere with that process, but rather participate in the audit process, and more importantly, receive that final audit report as a committee and present it back to the council. That way, they can work with the auditing firm or the auditor and the comptroller's office and the city manager to prepare this report in such a way that it doesn't become a sudden surprise to the council. That this group has worked with them, and as you have said, has become very involved in the auditing and business process of this. And by adding citizens of the community, showing even further transparency to what the city is doing.
With that explanation, Madam Mayor, I'd recommend you proceed with the motion. I want everybody to understand kind of where we are and what we've done.
One question, Councilor, regarding the comptroller's concern over conflict.
Okay, let me comment on that. I tend to concur with her. She's the controller, and I don't know if you recall this, but I was a big advocate of having a controller as a separate office, as a separate person that was sort of reportable to the council, as well as reportable to the manager. And I think her concern is to maintain some independence and our own opinion, and an opinion that could be different from the auditor. With that in mind, I think she's expressed her opinion, which is she doesn't necessarily want to be bound by the committee's vote. She wants to be able to express her own opinion. But I think she can do that in the committee context if she feels like she ought to be, quote, ad hoc, and that's more comfortable to her. Why don't you change your motion, if that's what you're asking for?
They're auditing my work, and I would just feel a little more comfortable around liaison.
Can I then amend my motion to the comptroller being an ad hoc member to this committee?
Somebody will second it. I second
We have a motion by Mr. Miller, a second by Councilman Guerrero. All in favor?
Ma'am, I have one question here before you go. On the citizen members, do they have to be citizens of Floresville?
As you know, I'll speak to that because neither one of these people are technically residents of Floresville.
No, my question is, according to the charter, is there any...
The charter doesn't specify. The charter simply says no fewer than 3 of the council's own members. But if we go back to how we appoint members to the various boards, FEBC, 4A, planning and zoning, the requirement for residents of the city to be, that requirement has been expanded to the county. And I think both of these people are excellent recommendations to this committee.
I'm not questioning their abilities, I'm simply asking, do they have to be in your answering question?
Can we get the counselor's opinion, please? Is it violating the charter to have someone?
Well, we've got the provision in the charter that it says citizens of Floresville on the committee. And that's been an issue on and off for some time. And I don't think that's an issue personally, but it's a charter matter.
The precedents have been set with the other boards.
But they voted on it,
Yeah.
correct?
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you you can't do it because we have people that come in and you did and declare your residency here based on whatever. So I think if the council wants to appoint somebody beyond the limits of the city, you can do so. But you just need to know the charter doesn't specifically authorize it.
Chance of this from light on it because we're going against the charter as I'm not sure how many rules we've broken so far, but that's been.
The charter
talked to all the other boards, we have people from the county. So, you know, even the FTDC were from Southern Springs, from all over the county, so where does it sit? What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is to stay inside the charter on this item until the amendment.
Well, it's been based upon council's recommendation.
Not because I happen to agree with it.
Well, no, understood. Based upon council's recommendation, I'll withdraw the two citizens' names and leave those positions to be named at a later date.
I want to make a comment. I don't know what the requirements are in here, Jim, when you were speaking, but my preference was that you would have one people from the outside, you know, that would be in that audit committee. That's what I think you should do. And also, you know, follow the charter requirements.
I just have a quick question. Since you're taking the comptroller off the deal, comes an even numbered board, so how would they break a tie vote?
I don't see that as a voting committee.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's a guiding committee.
I do think though, so that I can be clear on this when I get asked this question the next time, I do think you need to post under the Open Meetings Act when you have your meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So the amended motion needs a second.
Motion made by Councilman Miller, second by Councilman Guerrero. All in favor?
Aye.
And now, Madam Mayor, motion itself. He's amended the motion to withdraw the two, so now we need to vote on the motion to accept it as amended.
Motion to accept as amended.
Do I have to read you a motion?
You took the two citizens off. So now it's time to vote on the motion. The two to be added.
So we vote on the the amended motion.
Right.
You just call the question for the amended motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for a motion again on that, is that what I'm gonna do?
Just call for the question on the amended motion,
Okay.
please.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion carries.
So who's on the audit committee?
It is Councilman Castillo, Councilman Miller, Councilman Rodriguez, and the other two pending to be appointed.
The city manager and the comptroller as an ad hoc member. And then two citizens to be named in a way
Run the city, correct?
within the city limits.
And will this be posted? So that, or would they all be recommendations from the council for the two members?
Well, they'd have to be recommendations from the council. Ultimately, the council would have to appoint the two members.
So we could all come up with the list as well?
Any council.
Okay, now we'll go on to new business, 3E. Consideration and action to appoint qualified members to the Parks Foundation. Mr. Miller?
In our workshops, we discussed at the last council meeting, we looked at the committees and boards that existed and talked to a number of citizens in our community, and we're still working with the Parks Foundation, who had one member appointed and had not had a meeting in quite some time, and there was not much to report. A number of citizens have expressed interest in participating in that committee for the Parks Foundation and achieving their missions. As a result, I have some nominations to that committee. There was a motion to appoint Cindy Cranston, George Ramsdale, Douglas Jones, Tom Robles, Richard Halliburton, Jonelle Pipes, and Michelle Allen, excuse me.
I think there's more, how many did you say we could appoint on it?
So in the bylaws that were written, each council member appointed one. From that point on, it was up to 15 total.
primary purpose of this fund is the foundation, right?
That's correct.
Fundraiser, nonprofit, but their primary goal is to raise funds, right?
Enhance, develop and enhance the parks of the community.
Whether it be through grants or some other type of funding?
Correct.
I'm not sure that I'm familiar with all of the names that were mentioned. I mean, obviously, no. I never received the applications.
A second.
They came in this afternoon, and that was for Michelle County and General Fund.
This is what I have correctly. It was Cindy Cranston, Mr. Ramsdale, John L. Pikes, Richard Halliburton.
Tom Robles of Michelle County.
Okay, I have a motion, Councilman Miller. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Morones. All in favor?
Aye.
No, I object to the process.
Okay, that will be 4-1, motion carries.
Madam Mayor, I think Councilwoman Castillo had another recommendation to that board. Can we entertain another motion on this?
Can't you just vote?
Yes, I would like to nominate our ex-mayor Daniel Tejada, because he is so good at fundraising, I think he should probably. Well, he has been known for raising funds for this community. I'm not sure why everyone is making a joke out of it. It is a joke.
Well, that 3 chances, we lost money.
He has raised monies for the Girl Scouts. He was influential in the Alamo Community College. He has raised monies for the extravaganza, over $25,000 each year. 1 year. He has raised monies for many colleges, so, and I think he would be a good member. If that is a primary thing to do, he's well known in circles. He can raise money for the sports park.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Castillo. Is there a second?
Do we have discussion?
Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Now we're going to go on to item 3F, to consideration and action to appoint members to the Riverbend TIF Committee. Mr. Miller?
Actually, Counselor had some recommendations on here. I didn't want to appoint members to this. I wanted to address the lack of information in it and the lack of activity from this board and ask for a refreshment of the nominations to the board.
Can you refresh what's the purpose of this board?
I think that's what we've been asking. When we had our workshops, Mr. Paul Sack made a presentation to the council members there that the Riverbend TIF Board was appointed by the city council, by the hospital, by the county, by our state representative, and by our state senator, but he couldn't cite who the members were. And we asked for a copy of the members. We asked for the bylaws and the resolutions to that, which it was promised to us by the end of the week. In the presentation that I heard, the current TIF was approximately $8 million, and they were talking about refinancing it at a significant cost. But the last time this board had met was in January of 2011.
And as a result, I wanted to discuss this and certainly see if it was appropriate to direct the city manager to write a letter to the other appointing agencies. The state senator's office, Zach Rainey, our state representative, Mr. Kemple, to the hospital board and to the county to ask them to renew their appointments to that, and which would give us until January to acquire the legal documents that describe the function of this board and their ability to refinance this TIF, which I think is going to be an alarming number of cost, not only to putting that liability on the city of Floresville, but the county of Wilson, as well as the Conley Memorial Hospital District. I know when I spoke with Mr. Eckel, who's the president of the hospital board, he had no visibility on this issue either, or much less knew of their discussion of refinancing this TIF, and thought we needed to get our arms around this very quickly. Councilman?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Miller. Jim Plummer, about, what was it, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, a year and a half ago when we refinanced, Jim Plummer was the active player when we had the purchasers come in from Pleasanton to renegotiate and purchase the Hawk project. And Jim's the mastermind on how the bond, how the taxes are set up on this. He's done a number of these. And Mr. Miller, the reason I'm suggesting we put this off is very simply, this is not a particularly simple board, because what you're talking about, the school district, by the way, doesn't participate out of all the other entities. But all these other entities have the right to appoint people on here. And what you're really doing is deferring the taxes to finance these so-called bonds, the TIF bonds. And it's not an easy process. I did see the one pager that you talked about at the workshop that Paul Sack put together. But the board hasn't met recently. The last time I checked the records were fairly difficult to understand because they weren't necessarily orderly. The minutes had some holes in them. But Jim has kept records because he's been bond counsel and been responsible for the issuances and the refinancings that have taken place. I talked to Jim and asked him if he could be present for tonight. Told the mayor that he couldn't. And I asked him for the documentation about the fact that he couldn't. My recommendation is it's a serious enough item to take it and give it some due course. And quite frankly, Mr. Miller, members of the council, Madam Mayor, I'd recommend that this be one of the key topics that you address in the workshop in the coming year when Jim can give you some time and spend some time with you explaining what this beast is, because it's a unique need for the state senator gets an appointment, state rep gets an appointment, and there are other taxing entities get appointments. So my thought is for tonight, we've got enough on the plate. Let's put this off to one of the workshops, schedule it early in January, and get on top of it.
I appreciate your candor, Counselor. I'm concerned seriously about this when a member of that board tells the city council that they are going to have to refinance this TIF at the cost of $1 million or $1.5 million. But this board has not met since January of 2011, almost 2 years ago. How effective are the appointments on here? They seem to be ineffective. And while I'm not recommending that we make appointments today, but that we notify the office of the state senator, that we notify the office of the state representative, the hospital board, and the county commissioners to look at their appointments and refresh those appointments so that in January, when we can address this issue in full, we as a council can make the appropriate appointments to that board and hopefully get a functioning board.
Mayor, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're suggesting. The last time it met and acted was to approve the transfer of the assets that we know as the Riverbend project. And
That's the year and a half ago, or the time, the date that you alluded to, I think, in Paul Sack's memo. I believe that's the last time the board met. And so I'm not disagreeing with your concern about the need for action. I don't have a problem with you notifying these people that you want a meeting and you want a workshop and you want to take some action. But at this point, I'm not sure that you need to do it tonight. 2 more weeks is not going to kill this whole.
Very well, Council.
If you do want to send them a letter that you're concerned about them having a meeting soon, I think that's probably entirely appropriate. But I just think to grasp, you really need Jim to come in and tell you how this thing's going.
I think, I speak for myself, I think some of the other councilmen also might want to also hear from Mr. Plummer, so we can learn about this beast that you call.
Right, and I think the workshop.
Because it is a big thing.
Yes, and I think a workshop setting, if I may, would be a very appropriate place to do it, early in January.
Very well, Council. I accept your recommendations and would move to table item 3F.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1. Now we're going to go on to item 3G, consideration and action to set dates for city council workshops in January 2013. Mr. Miller?
As our counselor has advised us, we certainly need to look at a number of workshops to address very, very specific issues and look at available dates to do that. At the same time we do this, we certainly have to look at city council meetings in January to take the appropriate action. I know we are looking at a joint workshop with the new 4A board and the city council to discuss the event center operations and the role of the city and the role of the 4A board. I think that would be a single workshop by itself, as they have recommended a workshop regarding the River Bend TIF. And I also believe, based on some of the information that the city manager will be presenting later, that we probably need to be looking at a workshop for this master plan for the city. Mr. Jocelyn, what dates would you recommend for those workshops?
It is really up to the council. What we've got are, of course, our regular meetings, the second and the fourth Thursday in January. The first one will be January 10th, 2013, and the second one will be January 24th. Speaking to our legal counsel, figure if you would like to do them on the same week or the opposite weeks, and we have to look at that. So, are we talking the 2 regular plus 2 workshops?
I think we're going to end up with 3 meetings, regular or business meetings, and 3 workshops in January. You know, I think three workshops in January. The 3 workshops that I'm proposing are 1, the River Bend TIF, 2, the 4A City Council workshop, and then the master plan, 10-year master plan workshop. City manager, if we did 1 workshop on 3 January, on 10 January, we would have a city council meeting. In the week of the 14th, we could do maybe a Monday, Thursday workshop, and that would take care of the 3 workshops, and then you have the city council meeting on the 24th. The week of the 14th?
Yes, sir. The 15th and 16th. That Thursday is she's unavailable.
If we did Tuesday, Thursday, I think that would be...
Not Thursday.
Oh.
Not available Thursday. If we do Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Wednesday.
Okay. So, are there any conflicts amongst the council with those days? Well, the week of the 14th, because the comptroller is out on the 15th, we could She's out on the 17th.
Yes, sir.
We could do Monday the 14th and Wednesday the 16th, or we could do Tuesday the 15th and Wednesday the 16th.
And all of it has to be done in January?
I think the issues that are facing this council require urgent action.
Will these be evening meetings or morning?
I think that's up to this group. I would suggest, based on the feedback that we got from the meetings that we scheduled, that it would be best to do an evening meeting, maybe starting at 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m.
Which one is the most urgent?
I don't think there's a way to say one is more urgent over the other one, Councilwoman Castillo. I think they're all urgent issues that affect this city. Okay, well then I will propose a workshop on 3 January at 6 p.m. And let's go with 4A City Council. A workshop on Monday the 14th at 6 p.m. to address the 14th. Then let's go to Tuesday the 15th at 6 p.m. to address the Riverbend tip. Wednesday the 16th at 6 p.m. No, this is the evening. 16th at 6 p.m. to address the city's 10-year master plan. And then the regular city council meetings on the 2nd and 4th.
First workshop is on 1-3.
1-3.
For the 4A City Council workshop.
4A City Council workshop. 1-8. Riverbend TIF. Oh, correction. 1-15. Riverbend TIF. 1-16. 10-year master plan. Do we need this in the form of a motion, or? Okay. I motion to set 3 city council workshops on the dates and times previously stated.
Okay, I have a motion. Councilman Lee, do I have a second? Lou, did you have something? Okay. Second by Councilman Medina.
I just want to put a caveat in the form of being on today.
Well, I think we could, if he had a conflict on that date, we could swap. Yeah.
It was one of those other workshops.
Okay, all in,
Swap workshop titles, yeah. So long as we can post them appropriately. The first workshop would then be instead of 1-3, 1-8. Any other conflict? There's a motion and a second on the floor. Do I need to amend the motion, or do we just let that one die and create a new one, Councilor?
What if we accept that change by consent and move on?
Hoorah.
just for the record, the dates are January the 8th for a workshop, regular council meeting on the 10th, workshop on the 15th, workshop on the 16th, and regular council meeting on the 23rd.
All it. The workshop's at 6 p.m., council meeting's at 7.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1. we go on to new business, item 3H. Consideration and action to approve the final plat for LRM subdivision at the corner of Railroad and 3rd Street. Cindy?
Mayor and council, we're looking at the land that is approximately 0.18 acres on the corner of Railroad, 3rd Street. It surrounds there is a Railroad, 3rd, and 8th Street. If you want to know exactly where it's at, Martha's Restaurant is on one side, the old primary school's on the front, and I think it's on the other side. Oh, yeah.
An older house with people.
There you go. There you go. Sorry. But Lynn Mosfire, he's the developer. He wants to subdivide this lot into 5 lots. 3 lots facing 3rd Street, 1, 2, and 3, and 2 lots facing Railroad Street. He has a building permit pending right now for this plat approval. What lot did you want to build that on? Now, this plat was approved by P&Z in November. There are things that have to be taken care of, which Lynn has done, which were putting the elevation contours, which is how the water is drained through the property there. It does have the requirements of all the utilities, electrical, water, wastewater. Again, there were some drainage issues, but those are going to be taken care of. He had supplied us with the floor elevations for the house they're going to be built, so they know how high they're going to be built in case of a flood that's going to go through there. The only thing that we do need to change on the if you propose to approve this, this plat, is one of the lots does not meet the minimum lot requirement. One of the actually 2 of the lots, I take that back. Lot 3 and lot 2 has the frontage of 70.51 and 71.51. The lots have to be at least 75 feet frontage. He meets the depth, but he doesn't meet the front. What we're going to need to ask for is a variance on these 2 lots.
Is this the same as special use?
No, well, it's a subdivision. He's subdividing.
So this is not subject to the moratorium that the council approved?
These are homes. He's planning to build.
Well, no, this was a moratorium on any special use, as I understand how that was approved.
Cindy, I may be wrong in speaking this. The term variance in our code is a word that we don't find there. So you have to make special exceptions part of that plat approval.
So special.
But it's not the same variety that we put a hold on. It's a different term for plat approval of the kind we're going to hear. It's our word for variance. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense, Cindy? Did I say that right?
Do these houses need flood certificates?
I'm sorry?
Do these houses need flood certificates?
No, it's not identified in the FEMA flood hazard, but it's very obvious by just looking at the lay of the land. Our engineer has recognized it. We had M&S looking out there too, because we're going to rebuild Railroad Street. They've recognized it. Lynn Mosmark has recognized it too. So
basically as a drainage area?
Yes.
How large is it?
Altogether, all the lots come out to 0.18 acres. So he has, I'm sorry that I don't have because we've had to have him bring in different plats to us.
Is that the same one, the same plat that's been approved by the PNC?
Actually, no, what was missing was the topography, the topals,
Okay.
the elevations. And that's what we, upon planning and zoning's approval, was to approve it with, when they came back to council, that they would have this on there.
What's there now? So is it just wood or brush or what?
I'm sorry?
What does it look like now? I mean, is there anything on it now?
Oh, no, it's just, it was, there's some history to that lot. I can remember the lady that owned it, but it's been like brush up to here. And apparently the city has tried to get her to cut the grass, but she declared it as a bird sanctuary of some sort.
I would rather see homes than brush.
Yes. And Mr. Bosmeyer, I don't know if you've seen his homes, but he's built a couple of homes on J Street, and he's built all of one fest.
Third Street is gonna get lower, and after it's lower, it's gonna be, I'm sorry, Railroad Street's gonna be lower, and after it's, because they bump in, and after they redo the street, all the way down the street, so it's gonna take care of any flooding, and if they don't flood, the water goes in the house.
Yeah, our next, Mr. Johnson, we have our next street project is Railroad Street. And part of that project is lowering the street, well, help the drainage facility.
It's on the other side of the railroad street.
There's some homes there, Martha's Grill's there, and some homes there, and it goes down to South Second. No, Second, I'm sorry, Second.
And these are homes for sale, right, not for rent? They're for sale?
Yes, I'm trying to build some affordable homes in town.
In what price range?
The one that's, or is it food farm, was appraised on the bank, the whole farm area. So everything will be under one thing.
And you're going to build 5 homes on that lot?
It's 5 lots.
It's 5 lots?
It's 5 separate lots.
Uh-huh.
What's the total acreage?
Well, each lot you have, well, it's all together, you have your